What does yoga have to do with social justice? I want to address this question, particularly in light of Black Lives Matter and the current protests all over the world. There are 8 limbs of yoga: yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. We'll save the first 2 for last. Let's start with asana. This is the kind of yoga most people will recognize, yoga poses. Pranayama is breath exercises and control. Pratyahara is turning the senses inward. So a really simple example of that is laying in shavasana in a relaxation pose, putting an eye bag over your eyes to reduce your sensory input. Dharana is concentration on a particular object, image, mantra. A lot of meditation falls in this category. Dhyana is concentration without an object. And samadhi is bliss. The goal of yoga is a total harmony of body, mind, and heart. And I'm symbolizing this here with a happy heart, but it's really a much deeper spiritual concept. So, back to yamas. The yamas are guidelines or rules for how we interact with other living beings. And they are Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, and Aparigraha. And we could say a lot about all of those, but for now I want to focus on Ahimsa, non-harming. The A means not, it's a negator, and Himsa is about harm. What I like about translating Ahimsa directly as non-harming is that it's a little more illuminating than a common translation, which is non-violent. Non-violent, I picture myself not hitting someone, not shooting someone. Non-harming reminds me that harm doesn't have to be active. Inaction can also cause harm. And participating in the institutionalized oppression of Black people is not ahimsa. Inaction in the face of injustice is not ahimsa. And the same applies to perpetuating the oppression of other people, of women, LGBTQIA plus folks, disabled people, elderly and poor people, and that's just to name a few of people who are pushed to the margins of our current society and culture. But today I do want to focus on racism and Black Lives Matter. And I want to talk now about another important yoga principle that comes from the niyamas. The niyamas are principles for how you interact with yourself. So yamas are to the outward world, to other beings, and niyamas are how you deal with yourself. The niyamas are shauka, santosha, tapas, svadhyaya, and ishvara pranidhana. I am really skimming over the limbs of yoga and the yamas and niyamas, and they're pretty amazing. So grab a book if you'd like to learn more. The book is the Yoga-Sutra of Patanjali. I like Feuerstein's translation. Here he is. Also linked below. And I also really love this one, Desikachar. He has a lot more commentary about it, and I find this super moving. Like, it makes it very personal. This also exists in English, so I'll link to all of that in the description. Go get some yoga philosophy. So I want to focus today on racism and Black Lives Matter, when we're going to try to apply ahimsa. But let's go first to the niyamas, because this is really the root of how to carry out this idea. We're going to focus on svadhyaya, which is self-study. It's a reflection, learning yourself. It also can involve reading, writing, referring. Classically, that would be reading old yogic texts and reflecting on them. And in the case of social justice, this one is primarily for me about finding the cultural detritus inside ourselves. that we need to deal with if we're going to build a better culture and a better world. Self-study. So what does that mean regarding racism? Racism is a very old and powerful idea. If you practice svadhyaya, self-study, you will find racist thoughts and perspectives and ideas in yourself. If you're a white person, they will result in conscious or unconscious actions that prop up and propagate racism. I'm not qualified to speak to the experience of POCs, but I really recently, after I filmed this video, came across a book called Skill in Action: Radicalizing Your Yoga Practice to Create a Just World. It's written by Michelle Johnson, a woman of color, and I'll link to it in the description below. And if any of you watching would like to share resources for people of color doing a self-study about white supremacy and racism, please share those resources in the comments section. Racism doesn't come from you. You learned it. And it's there, whether you dare to look or not. If you are a white person and choose not to practice self-study, svadhyaya, on racism, you will inevitably do harm. Sorry. Don't let shame stop you from looking inside. There is no shame in having grown up in our culture. Be fueled by love and a determination to end this shit once and for all. Here's some great resources for self-study for white people. Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad. It's great. It sounds scary, it is scary, but it is written for white people, and Saad is more generous and compassionate than I think anyone has a right to expect. And she makes this journey completely possible. So get this book and go ahead and get a blank journal to use with it. Showing Up for Racial Justice is an organization that formed out of white members of the NAACP when they decided to become an all-Black organization. There are local chapters of Showing Up for Racial Justice in many US cities, but if you live outside the US, they also have a lot of online resources like online classes, and they've just recently have posted something about they're doing an online workshop onboarding new white allies who previously haven't been involved in the struggle for racial justice. All of these links are also in the description below. If you are a white person living in Germany, so I'm from the US, but I live in Germany, I strongly recommend this book, which translated means What White People Don't Want to Hear About Racism But Should Know by Alice Hasters. Great book. She's a journalist. It's impeccably researched. It's also very personal. And I think the number of people claiming that racism has been solved in the US is hopefully dropping, but that's still kind of a thriving idea in Germany. And read this book and you won't have that thought anymore. Racism is a problem in Germany and the world. Hasters' book is also very actionable. I literally immediately changed some of my daily habits as a result of reading it. So there were things that I hadn't realized were microaggressions, were things that means things that reinforce racism and are really a problematic and daily experience for people of color. Not being a person of color, I don't have firsthand experience with the best resources available for self-study about internalized racism for people of color. From what I've read, contact with others dealing with their own self-study, and POC-only spaces can be healing resources. And for that, I think Google is your friend. What do you do with the insights you gain from self-study? Ahimsa. You take what you learned and you put it into action. So how do you do this? There's a personal level. Speak up. Speak your mind. Talk to other people. If you're white, talk to white people. Here's a quote I really like. It translates roughly to, as a Black person, you cannot end white racism. White people have to do that. It's from Juliana Afram. So our options for action don't end at speaking up when someone makes a racist comment. We also can share our views in electronic forums, which I think for many people is the easiest thing to do. We can donate money where it's needed to continue this fight, to support demonstrators and people who've been unfairly jailed, to keep supporting organizations that are doing this work. And we can put our bodies on the line. We can go to demonstrations, take to the streets literally. And I know that this is a challenge for a lot of people, that you worry about your own safety. But I think the sense that you will be safer if you stay home is white privilege. We went to a demonstration a couple weeks ago in Berlin, a Black Lives Matter demonstration in early June. And a friend had really reassured me, we'll both bring our kids, it's going to be okay, we're going to stay near the edge. And she also said the presence of white women and children in particular tends to de-escalate demonstrations because the police are more hesitant to hurt us. That's heartbreaking, but let's use it to make everybody safer. As we were leaving the demonstration, we passed through the area where it was most crowded, where the most chanting was and the most action. And that's where we saw most of the Black kids with their parents at the demonstration, and babies and tiny babies. And we were talking about how, as it stands in the US, in Germany, around the world in many places, Black children aren't safe. They're not safe at home, they're not safe in their schools, and they're not safe anywhere that their parents can take them. So it's not a question whether it makes sense to bring them to a demonstration that is, in the end, trying to finally create safety for these children and the adults that they'll become. So it is, that was a really strong emotional image for me about, well, like, I have the choice. I have the white privilege and I have the luxury of being able to decide that I'd rather stay home in my apartment with my white child and know that she is very safe here compared to a Black child. And that's not something we can allow to continue. And I do think it's more powerful to be present physically than it is to be present in an electronic form. And I'd like to encourage you, and this is also part of your self-study, what is your way of activism? What is the way that you can most powerfully, most bravely, and still respecting yourself, change the system so that we can all live? I'm putting a list of links for action, donation, and information in the description. So let's go back to the other 6 limbs of yoga. Asana, pranayama, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi can all support you in having the strength and equanimity to stick with this struggle, even when it's not blowing up your news feed. And this is definitely not a sprint, but a marathon. Now I'm going to share a couple of short practices that you can do anywhere to bring a little more calm and peace to your heart. And I'm envisioning someone in the thick of life, whether you're at a demonstration or single parenting or at work, taking this as a short moment so you can get back out there and keep trying to do the next right thing. I also created a yoga sequence with the same idea in mind, and there's a link to that video in the description as well. So first we're going to do an exercise that I learned from the organization Peace on Purpose. They created a lot of mindfulness activities for UN aid workers, and they're all free and available online, and I'm linking to that below, and I highly recommend it. This one is just for creating calm. You can really do it in any position. You can be standing on a bus, you can be sitting or walking. So first, just take a moment to make yourself as comfortable as you can. And if it's convenient where you are, you can close your eyes. And then slowly, and paying attention to how it feels, just close your right hand and then open it again. And close it and open it. And you can use the pressure that feels right to you, whether you really want to squeeze hard or keep it very gentle. Close and open your hand. I like this one also because it's not necessarily obvious that you're doing anything. If you were sitting in the subway, for example, just need to calm. And now alternate between closing and opening your left hand and your right hand. I kind of like that this is also reminding me of the Black Power salute. So closing your right and your left hand and opening. Close right and open. Close the left and open. And now close both hands. If you like, give it a little squeeze. Open both hands. And now add the breath. Breathing in, close both hands, and breathing out, open both. Repeat that a few more times. Breathing in, closing the hands. Breathing out, opening. And one more time. Feel the hands as you close and open them. Now continue to breathe and feel both hands. Slowly open your eyes. So that's the calming exercise from Peace on Purpose. And again, there's a link to many more exercises from them. I'm so calm, I can barely talk now, in the description. And now I want to show you one from Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. And he was really one of the early Buddhists, or he was part of the movement of taking their meditation practices out of the monastery and into the world and into intense social activism. So awesome. And this is actually a book for children. And these two exercises come from this book. I'll link in the description as well. So get your favorite pointer finger and just put it under your nose. And you can either do it very like stylized, or if you're in public, you can pretend you're kind of just like propping up your head and dozing off. And if you're able, close your eyes and then just breathe in and out through your nose and feel the air on your finger. Feel the temperature of the air flowing past your finger when you breathe in and when you breathe out. Feel the difference in the temperature. Pay attention to how it feels. Notice the pressure of your finger against your lip and your lip against your finger. And the breath flowing slowly in and out against your finger. Now slowly release that, and we're going to paint the outside of our hand. So starting at the outer side of the thumb, when you go towards the fingertips, you'll inhale, and back towards the palm, exhale. Breathing in and out. And in and out. And when you reach the outside of your pinky finger, then you're done, or you can just go back to the base of the thumb and repeat. Let's do one more time, the 5 fingers. In and out. Feeling especially the skin between your one hand and the other. And let your hand sink. I hope that was helpful, and I'd love to hear your comments about yoga and social justice, how you see it, how you practice it. I also have a little gift for you all today. My friends Summer and Paul Sobin have a really gorgeous virtual studio that they set up really quickly in response to COVID-19 because they had already filmed all these beautifully produced yoga and meditation videos, and they had them. And they were like, oh, I guess this is the moment. And they have a subscription service, a monthly cost to have access to all of these videos. I think there's like more than 70 already. And they're offering 1 month free without any, there's no obligation after that time, with the code SOBINmonth. So I am going to put the code and the link to their studio in the description. And guys, these are just my favorite yoga teachers. So even if you only go and try one class, they have a series expressly for beginners in there, and then they have some pretty advanced practices and a lot of meditations. Go use the code, check it out, and tell them I said hi when you see them. I'm also going to start offering weekly donation-based streaming classes for people of color and LGBTQIA plus folks. They are free. Please do not donate. I'm putting a link down below where you can sign up for the classes, and you can just choose whichever date works for you when you're signing up, or sign up for all of them. And I look forward to seeing you there and doing some live yoga in the real world. Namaste, y'all. Thank you.